Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. I thought we would have a look at some of the suggestions passed to developers for February of 2025. With the dev server stuff pretty much done, there is obviously a little bit of time for other stuff, and I always enjoy looking at the suggestions passed to the devs. So in this video, we're going to have a look at some of the ground stuff that got passed, including a new Abrams and also the Priest, which is going to be pretty fun. Before we get into it, one of the things I want to mention is Italeri, or Italeri, I think is how you pronounce it. Basically, these guys are some model manufacturers in the European area, and they've come out with two kits, the Leopard 2A4 and also the F-16C Fighting Falcon. What's interesting about these is these are tie-ins with Gaijin, so these are War Thunder specific models. They're only available for the European region, unfortunately, but basically, if you pick them up, you can actually get yourself access to some unique camos and also some premiums, premium account, backups, and all of that good stuff. Plus, of course, the model itself. Now, as I said, these guys only ship to Europe, which is kind of annoying. So if you're outside of it, there's not a lot you can do, but at least it's there if you are interested. Italeri has done stuff in the past in terms of these kind of crossovers with Gaijin, and at least right now, if you have a look at the promotional stuff, looks like there's going to be these two, and then also two in the future. So make sure to get involved if you're interested in modeling. And also, if you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe and also like the video. The first vehicle is the M1A2 M256E1. This is basically an Abrams with an L55 cannon, meaning it has a longer barrel. The development of the Rheinmetall 120 L55 120mm gun began in 1991 when Germany, Switzerland, and also the Netherlands agreed to cooperate in the development of a modernized Leopard 2. This modernization project included a lengthened 120mm gun, which was much cheaper than the development of an entirely new cannon. The resulting weapon was the Rheinmetall 120 L55. As their M256 120mm cannon was heavily based on the same gun, but the L44 version, you can be sure that the US followed the development of the new L55 variant very intently. From 1998 to 2000, the US tested 3 modified RH-120L55s, as well as an additional 12 barrels produced under license by TACOM and also Watervliet Arsenal, under the designation of the M256E1. At least one of these guns was mounted onto an M1A2 Abrams. Problems immediately arose, though. You see, the L55 was developed specifically to suit the Leopard 2's gun mount. The 120mm armed Abrams tanks featured a gun mount and stabilization systems that differed from the Leopard 2's. It was quickly discovered that these systems were far too weak to properly handle the longer and heavier M256E1. This effectively meant that the M1A2 in this configuration was not fully stabilized, making firing accurately on the move very difficult, if not impossible. Fixing this issue meant an entirely new stabilization system, which would be needed to be developed alongside other necessary major modifications, and it was deemed that the cost of this would not be worth the performance increase, and the project was therefore dropped. The Priest has also got passed, which is fantastic. The 105mm howitzer motor carriage M7 was a self-propelled gun based on the M3 Lee or the M4 Sherman chassis, produced by America during the Second World War. It was provided through Lend-Lease to the British, where it served under the name 105mm self-propelled gun, Priest, with the name coming from the pulpit-like machine gun ring present on the vehicle, along with keeping in line with the naming conventions of the British SPGs of the time, which was based on members of the church, like the bishop and also the deacon. The M7's development began in the early stages of the Second World War, when the US Army observers realized they would need a self-propelled artillery vehicle with powerful firepower in order to support armored operations. Lessons would be learned through the use of half-tracks such as the T-19 howitzer, which indicated the ideal vehicle would have to be both fully tracked and also armored. This would lead to a vehicle based on the M3 Lee chassis named the T-32, which possessed an open-top superstructure and mounted the M2A1 105mm howitzer, complemented by an M250 cal machine gun, which was added after trials. The T-32 Pilot was deemed sufficient for the Army's needs and was accepted for service as the M7 in February of 1942, which began production beginning in April of that year. This SPG instantly attracted the interest of the British tanks, and they requested 2,500 to be delivered by the end of 1942, followed by a further 3,000 by the end of 1943, though this order would never be fully completed as the more desirable Sexton SPG became readily available. As production continued, the M3 Lee chassis was replaced by that of an M4 Sherman, and both variants would be provided to the British through Lend-Lease, before production concluded with a total of 3,489 M7s being produced. The British would find the M7 to be a reliable weapon, and it would go on to see major frontline service, even if logistical problems regarding ammunition stopped it being wholeheartedly adopted, and eventually discarded in favor of the competing Sexton design. Despite this, the Priest would see service on numerous fronts, starting during the North African campaign, when 90 priests were received by the British 8th Army, where they would play a pivotal role during the Second Battle of El Alamein alongside Bishop SPGs. Here, the supply issues presented themselves, but the M7 would continue to serve with the British through North Africa and then into Italy, where they were slowly supplemented by the more logistically friendly Sexton. The Priest would also serve in Northwest Europe, and British examples would take part in the fighting that followed the invasion of Normandy in June of 1944. Artillery regiments of the British 3rd and also 50th Divisions were equipped with the M7, though due to logistical reasons, they were replaced by towed 25-pounder guns in early August. The Priest would also serve during the Burma campaign, where it served in a significant role during the Battle of Make-Tilla and the advance on Rangoon in 1945 during Operation Dracula. For Japan, we have another high-tier MBT prototype, the STC-2. Now, there is a disclaimer to start this one. The name STC was used by the Japanese media to refer to the STA series and also SDB series. However, they later on changed the program title to NTK for the Type 90, meaning new tank. So the individual tanks were named TKX and then a number and so on. But instead of doing that, we're just going to call it the STC-2 since it's a little bit easier. The Mitsubishi Company was tasked by the SDF to develop a new MBT for Japan to replace the aging Type 74s, a task that gave way to many different tank prototypes and also text beds. The Tank X program went through a series of different designs for the main battle tank candidates. One of the most iconic of the 4 prototypes is the STC-2, Japan's new MBT prototypes, relying on the new adoption of composite armor techniques that made progress in the early 90s, and a Japanese-made Steelworks 120mm smoothbore cannon. The STC-2 is also equipped with the same 120mm that was on the STC-1, but the difference is the STC-2 was equipped with an automatic loader, whereas the one only had a manual. There's also some other differences between the STC-2 and the Type 90, with the STC-2 being the prototype of it. Basically, the front part of the body had some differences on it. The body had some blackout lights on the right and left side of it, and it's really unknown what the function of these were. In addition, the driver's seat had been moved to the left side of the tank instead of the other, which is interesting. The design for the commander sight, so the CITV, is also very different than the Type 90, and the sight for the gunner also has a unique cover on it as well. The composite armor design for the STC-2 also may look closer to the Type 90, but it's not entirely the case, because the composite armor on the STC-2 covers only the turret front and does not extend to the sides like the Type 90 does. So the STC-2 composite armor does not conform to the 60 degrees forward that is the basis of the composite armor also seen on the Type 90. The STC-1 was Japan's most ambitious prototype in the time, packed with the latest technology available at the time of production. It had technologies such as the Commander's IR and also rubber skirts and many others. But the STC-2, on the other hand, is a relatively orthodox prototype, with the only exception of it having the first autoloader for the 120mm cannon. The C2 prototype was equipped using the 120mm smoothbore made by Japan Steel. It also fired a new APFS-DS prototype that was made by Daikin Industries. It had the ability to penetrate 500mm of armor at a distance of 2,000 meters, and it had an ideal bullet core with an LD ratio of 17.5, a Rockwell hardness of 39, and an elongation of 12.4%. So this would just give Japan another option in their Type 90 area for something that's a little bit more lightly armored, but retaining the autoloader. We also have a Taiwanese vehicle that, to be honest, looks completely fake. I'm sure it isn't, but the pictures just they look absolutely ridiculous. This is the Taiwanese Hunter Leopard 105mm wheeled tank, the D2 prototype specifically. The 105mm wheeled tank, or the Lai Bao, or Cheetah as it was known, is a wheeled tank based on the CM32 APC family under the Project Lai Bao. It is armed with the 105mm XT112 cannon manufactured by Taiwan's Armaments Bureau. It has a crew of 4, including the commander, gunner, driver, and loader. The chassis is an improved version compared to the production of the CM32s, 3s, and also 4s, with better suspension, explosive protection, turning radius, and also horsepower. Protection-wise, the baseline armor of the vehicle is constructed from a high-hardness steel like the US Striker, with 12.7mm API resistance from the front and 7.62mm resistance all around. In addition to this, the D2 prototype is also equipped with bolt-on armor, which offers all-round protection against 12.7mm armor-piercing ammunition, with the front being able to withstand 30mm armor-piercing ammunition. As the tanks used by the Taiwanese army were mainly M48s and M60s, they currently have a difficulty catching up with mechanized infantry, using the CM32, 33, and 34 AFEs on quick response missions to counter PRC's amphibious and airborne AFEs, light tanks fortifications, and also the infantry. The 105mm wheeled tank was designed to fill this role by providing direct fire support alongside the mechanized infantry, which can be done with Taiwan's road network throughout the island. The wheeled tank's top speed of over 100 km an hour on road and also precise weaponry. The new prototype started development in 2019, testing in 2022, and displayed in 2024. The final improved prototype was aiming to finish testing by 2025, which was when production can start. Obviously, this vehicle could be added to War Thunder even before that happens. This vehicle just looks ridiculous. I don't know how else to put it. It's just an insane vehicle to look at with my own eyes. Anyway, as always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.